It's funny how you never truly understand how deep a mother's love runs until you're faced with something that makes your heart physically hurt, like it's being torn out of your chest. The first time I felt that was the moment I opened my eyes and saw my daughter, Lily, standing in the doorway of our living room. It was a normal evening, just another Thursday. She had been acting a bit off for a few days, distracted, distant, but I figured it was just the usual teenage of, you know how it is. Stress about school, boys growing up. We all go through phases, right? But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw next. She stood there in the dim light, her face pale, her eyes wide and unblinking, fixed on the wall in front of her. I thought maybe she was having a moment, lost in thought. But something was wrong, terribly wrong. "Lily?" I asked, my voice soft, hesitant. "What's going on, sweetheart?" At first she didn't respond. Her lips were parted, but there was no sound. And then, suddenly, she opened her mouth, and the sound that came out wasn't hers. It was something else. A voice so deep, so guttural, it didn't belong to a 15-year-old girl. It was a voice I couldn't place, an inhuman rasp that sent a chill through my bones. "You're too late," it growled. I felt the blood drain from my face as I watched my daughter's body convulse. Her back arched, her fingers curling into claws, and she screamed in a way that felt unnatural, like she wasn't even human anymore. It wasn't the scream of a scared teenager. It was the scream of something in agony. I rushed to her, panic flooding my chest. "Lily, baby, what's happening?" I reached for her, but before I could touch her, her head snapped toward me, and her eyes locked onto mine. They weren't her eyes anymore. They were black. "Me. Hello." I stepped back, my legs giving way beneath me as I collapsed onto the couch, my breath catching in my throat. The air around us grew heavier, colder, as though something was suffocating the room. The darkness in her eyes deepened, and her mouth twisted into a smile that was anything but comforting. "Mom," she whispered, her voice now normal again, soft and sweet. But there was something wrong with it. "Mom, help me, please." I wanted to scream, to run to her, to fix it, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear, and it wasn't just fear for her anymore. It was fear for myself, because in that moment I understood. She wasn't my daughter anymore. I was snapped out of my trance by the sound of paper rustling. I looked down, and there it was, a note folded neatly on the coffee table in front of me. I hadn't seen it before, and I couldn't even remember when it had appeared. Shaking, I picked it up, unfolded it, and read the words written in Lily's handwriting. Except I knew instinctively that this wasn't her handwriting. "They've already taken her." The words burned in my mind like a brand. "They've already taken her." The phrase repeated in my head, echoing as the room seemed to warp around me. I looked at my daughter, still writhing on the floor, still screaming in pain. My chest tightened. This wasn't just some sickness. This wasn't just a phase. Something was happening to her. Something that wasn't of this world. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice shaking, my hands clenched into fists. The voice returned, deep and distorted, this time coming from behind her. "You know what we want." I screamed, my mind racing. What was happening? What was this? My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, dialing 911 without thinking, but the line went dead before I could even beep. The sound of static filled the room, followed by a low hum that made my skin crawl. It wasn't a simple possession. It couldn't be. This was something darker, something ancient. Knew it. I could feel it in my bones. My daughter was no longer in control of her own body, and what had taken her wasn't something I could fight with holy water or an exorcism. This was something worse. "Lily!" I cried, crawling toward her. But she was no longer responding. Her eyes were rolling back, her body jerking, and her mouth opened again, this time letting out a scream that sounded like it came from another world. I leaned forward, my heart in my throat. What am I supposed to do? I thought desperately. Couldn't lose her. Couldn't. I needed to help her. But every instinct I had was telling me to run, to get away from whatever had taken hold of my daughter. And then I heard the voice again. Not from Lily this time, but from somewhere else, somewhere. Closer, somewhere within the house. It was coming from behind me. She's not the first, it whispered, low and menacing. She won't be the last. I froze, my blood running cold, and turned slowly to face the source of the voice. Standing there, in the doorway, was a figure, a man dressed in black, his face obscured by a hood. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Who are you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, my eyes darting between the figure and Lily. The man tilted his head, his lips curling into a grin that sent a chill down my spine. Does it matter? He asked, his voice smooth and deep, full of malice. You can't stop what's already begun. She's ours now. Before I could respond, a terrible deep laugh echoed from the corners of the room, as though the house itself was mocking me. I stumbled backward, my hand gripping the armrest of the couch to steady myself. Lily's body jerked again, her eyes suddenly opening, wide and unseeing, staring directly at me, but not seeing me. Her lips parted in a silent scream, her fingers clawing at the floor, and then, for a moment, she stopped moving completely. It was then that I saw it, her skin pale and clammy, but now it seemed almost frosted, like something was growing under the surface, like her veins were turning black, spreading outward, as though they were being marked by something that wasn't human. No, I whispered, tears streaming down my face as I knelt next to her. Please, Lily, fight it. But Lily didn't answer. She couldn't. Her head snapped back in a violent jerk, and her body began to twist, contorting unnaturally. I watched, horrified, as her back arched so far back that her body was almost completely inverted, her hands stretching toward the ceiling, her mouth gaping wide in a silent scream. The figure in the doorway chuckled again, stepping closer, his shadow stretching across the room like a living thing. She's ours now, he repeated. And you're next. I recoiled, a cold dread sweeping through me as the full weight of what was happening settled over me. This wasn't just possession. It wasn't just a demon. It was something far worse. Something ancient, something that had been waiting for years. And now it was here. I backed away from Lily, my breath coming in ragged gasps. No, I whispered. I won't let you. Take her. But as I spoke, the house around me seemed to shift. The walls began to bend, the floor creaked underfoot, and the room darkened. The shadows deepened, stretching, curling, filling the space with something that made it hard to breathe, hard to think. I could hear whispers now. Not just in the air, but in my head, soft, insistent whispers that didn't make sense, but that felt real. I turned back to Lily. She was still twisting, still writhing in agony, her skin now rippling with that strange darkness. But it wasn't just her anymore. It was me too. I could feel it, that thing moving inside of me, creeping into my veins, crawling through my mind, trying to take hold. And in that moment I realized the truth. We were already caught. This house, this presence, it was inside all of us. I had no choice now. I had to save my daughter. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, I would stop. Had to. Because if I didn't, I would lose her. Forever. And I couldn't let that happen. Not without a fight. I couldn't take my eyes off Lily. The way her body jerked, contorting in ways that weren't human, felt like something was happening to her that I couldn't even begin to understand. Each time her skin rippled with that dark, crawling blackness, my heart broke a little more. She was slipping away from me. Whatever had taken her was inside her, deep, and it was feeding. The agony in her eyes, the way she clawed at the air, begging to be free. It wasn't just her body being overtaken. It was her spirit, her very essence being torn apart by this unseen force. I felt the burning sensation crawling through my veins again. My hands trembled as I clutched, my chest struggling to breathe. The walls were closing in. The room was growing darker, colder. And I could hear it. The whispers. The voices from the corners of the room, from the shadows that had taken shape. We are the ones who choose. The voices hummed softly, like a chant growing louder with each passing second. I glanced at the figure in the doorway. The man who had been watching all of this unfold. He was no longer standing idly by. He was waiting, savoring the moment like he had planned this for years. He took a slow step forward, and I felt the air around us ripple with his movement like he was distorting the very space around him. "You are too late to save her, Claire," he said. His voice smooth, dark, almost inviting. "The ritual is already in motion. There is nothing you can do to stop it." I could barely hear him over the scream that tore from Lily's throat, a scream that was no longer her own. It was guttural, full of pure pain, but beneath it was something else, something deeper. It was like the scream of 1,000 lost souls trapped in agony, each one pushing through her body, making her suffer. My legs felt weak, but somehow I stayed rooted to the spot. I wanted to run, to scream, to get away, but I couldn't. My daughter was in there, fighting for her life. I had to fight for her. "I won't let you take her," I managed to say, my voice shaking but full of defiance. The man's lips curled into a cruel smile, as though my words amused him. He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes turned toward Lily, and in that moment I saw the change. Her body seemed to settle, her arms going limp, her head dropping forward as though the fight had finally left her. Could barely breathe. She was gone. I rushed toward her, falling to my knees beside her. The coldness of her skin shocked me, and I grasped her arm, trying to shake her awake. "Lily, please. Don't leave me. Please." But she didn't respond. Her body was still, and the light in her eyes had gone out completely, leaving them hollow, lifeless. Done. The thought hit me like a punch to the gut. I had lost her. I slumped against her, the tears pouring down my face. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The world was crumbling around me. The man was still watching, his eyes fixed on us, his expression unchanged. But then something shifted. I wasn't sure if it was the pain of losing her, or the anger that had built up inside me in that moment of helplessness, but I felt it, a spark, a voice inside me that I had buried deep down for years, my voice. "You will not take her," I said again, louder this time with more force. "I will not let you destroy, or I will stop you." The man's grin widened, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You still don't understand, do you? You can't save her. She's already ours." I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to collapse into hopelessness. My daughter was gone, yes. But I had something I hadn't noticed before. Power. The book. The one I had found earlier. The one with the strange symbols. The one my father had hidden away. I forced myself to stand up, my legs shaking as I moved toward the shelf behind the man, my eyes fixed on the dark, old book resting in the shadows. I reached for it, my fingers trembling as I pulled it down, but before I could open it, the man stepped forward, blocking my path. "You don't know what you're doing." His voice was sharp now, laced with warning. I didn't hesitate. I opened the book anyway, the pages crinkling beneath my fingers as I began to scan the words. It wasn't in English. It was written in some kind of ancient script, something I didn't recognize. But as I scanned the pages, a strange pull tugged at my mind, and I realized the symbols were the same as the ones on the floor of the altar. The same symbols that had been etched into the house for years. Understood. This book was the key. The ritual, the dark magic. It wasn't just for summoning demons. It was to bind them, to trap them, and to stop what had already been set into motion. But to do that, I needed to finish what my father had started. The same thing he had hidden from me. The same thing he had tried to control and failed. The man stepped closer, his eyes darkening, and I could feel the energy in the room shift. The air grew colder, thicker. "You're wasting your time," he said. "You can't stop what's coming. Already begun." I didn't answer him. Couldn't. But something inside me had clicked. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't have a plan. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let this thing take my daughter. I wasn't going to let it take anything else from me. My hands shook as I traced my finger over the symbols in the book, whispering the words softly, trying to make sense of them. They didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard before, but as I spoke them, I felt a strange warmth begin to grow in my chest. The whispers, the darkness, the shadows, they all seemed to fade just for a moment. The man's expression changed. He didn't smile anymore. His lips pulled back in a grimace, his eyes narrowing with fury. "You think you can stop me?" His voice grew low, guttural. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, Claire." But I wasn't listening. Couldn't. I could feel the energy in my chest, the power as I continued to recite the incantations from the book. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I felt it, the power of my ancestors, the power of my blood running through me. The ritual had to be completed. The temperature in the room dropped further. The shadows seemed to grow thicker, and I could feel them reaching for me again, like they were grasping at me. But this time I wasn't afraid. Had something stronger than fear. The man lunged at me, but I was faster. My hand shot out and the room exploded with a blinding light, the power of the ritual erupting like a shockwave. The air snapped with energy, the force pushing everything back. The man staggered, his body flickering in and out of existence, like he was being torn apart. "No!" he hissed, his voice frantic. You can't do this." But I didn't stop. I pushed forward, focusing every ounce of my strength into the words, into the binding ritual. And then, in an instant, the room went silent. The darkness disappeared. The shadows retreated, fading into nothing. The energy in the room collapsed in on itself, the oppressive weight lifting, the temperature returning to normal. I collapsed to my knees, gasping for air. My body was shaking, my hands covered in sweat. When I looked up, I saw Lily. Her body, still and lifeless, but the darkness in her eyes was gone. The blackness that had spread across her veins had vanished. I crawled to her side, my heart pounding, my hands trembling as I reached for her. "Lily, Lily, please wake up." For a long moment there was nothing. But then her eyelids fluttered. She took a sharp, shallow breath, and the color slowly began to return to her cheeks. She blinked, her eyes slowly focusing on me. "Mom." Her voice was weak, hoarse, but it was hers. "What happened? Where am I?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I pulled her into my arms. "You're okay. You're safe now." Over. But I knew it wasn't over. It couldn't be. Whatever had been unleashed, whatever had taken hold of her, it wasn't gone for good. I'd stopped it, yes. But I had the sinking feeling that this was just the beginning. And no matter what happened next, I wasn't going to stop fighting. For her. For myself. For the world that hadn't yet realized that this was only the beginning. Because the darkness had only been sealed away. It hadn't been destroyed. And one day it would come back. But next time I wouldn't be caught unprepared. Next time I'd be ready. Had to be.